Alright, welcome to our first tutorial video in the Dark Age of Man series. Dark Age of Man, of course, is our game. It was made available in PDF in January of this year and became available in all formats on Drive-Thru-RPG and Lulu in February, I think, late January, early February. This first episode is Character Gen, and again, this is pages 21 through pages 27 in our game. There are three ways. So, Dark Age of Man, Character Gen, right? There are three ways to create a character. The basic, of course, name we're not going to do yet. The basic is page 21, very simple. Every character starts with 3 repute. We have our attributes: body, mind, spirit. Spirit. I guess I did spell that right. Spirit, prestige, luck. Those are our attributes. Repute 3 gives me 3 attributes to spin, right? So first, though, we're making the simple character. Right? So there's 3 ways to make this. They're simple. You can just do what I'm about to do, and you're ready to play. There's simple plus profession. You can pick a profession. And then there's simple plus custom. Basically design your own profession. But simple is all you must do to be ready to play. Simple per profession, you go ahead onto page 20, what is it, 24, 25, or 26, I think 5 pages. I think it's page 25 are the professions, 26. So page 26 through 27, you pick a profession, or you customize your own. So I have a goal here. I want to make Walter of Dredge. Walter of Dredgewater Downs, right? Repute 3, and I'm thinking that I want him to be administrator. So I'm going to have body 0. I want him to be have some mind. He's educated. I want him to be at least somewhat spiritual. I want him to be whoops, it looks like, there we go. How come that should say luck? That's weird. And of course, he's not going to be a man who depends on luck. He will have prestige, meaning he is higher than a peasant. He can certainly do the job. Now, once I have those 3 points, those 3 repute points accounted for, I'm going to have the derived ratings. Purse, which is 1 plus prestige, so he's going to have a 2 purse. He's got a little bit of ability to barter and purchase and buy. His inventory, this is the amount he can carry, is 4 plus body. Well, he can only carry 4 items. It does, and yes, your armor counts as an item, and you'll see how that works here in a second. And then, of course, the final one is what's called the combat rating, or CR, right? Yeah, combat, but we just refer to it as CR rating. And this right now will be -2 because I don't have any weapon or armor, and my body is 0. So without any kind of gear to help me, I'm on -2 in combat, right? Okay, so here we go. And my gear right now would all be, basically I get 3 items. I'm going to have robes, and they're going to be of poor quality because all items are considered in the world, for the most part, most items are poor. So you would start with poor items. I'm going to have a signet ring of poor quality, and I'm going to have a dagger of poor quality. Now, the good thing about the dagger is it automatically gives me something here, so my combat now is at least only a -1 with my dagger. Okay, that's it. I'm almost done. All I have to do now is define how he earned his 3 repute. So repute 1 he earned as he brokered a land dispute between 2 dredge aldermen. Right, so that means somewhere there was a land dispute between 2 aldermen in the Dredge County, and somehow my character helped resolve that dispute without violence, right? Without right? So I've brokered a land dispute between two Dredge County aldermen to a peaceful conclusion, right? I don't have to go into details. That's what I would be known for. Second, let's see here. Second, what else could I have done here? Managed the Estovers during a mid-winter cold period. Okay, so what is that? Estovers are legal wood gatherers, right? You were not allowed to take wood. You were not allowed to hunt, fish. So the lord of the land owned everything. So you couldn't even go out and harvest wood. You couldn't go out and even pick up loose wood without asking permission or having permission. So Estovers are legal wood gatherers, right? So during a cold snap midwinter, there might have been a lot of potential problems if the Estovers weren't gathering enough wood to keep, right, people warm, etc. So let's say my character was charged with managing the Estovers and getting more production out of the Estovers, right? So again, you can see nothing is combat related for my character thus far. And finally, facilitated a higher crop yield for the northern dredge bovates. So my character maybe came up with a more efficient way to create a higher crop yield for Washburn's northern bovates of land. And so I've increased the crop yield, right, at some point. Okay, so I'm done. Technically, then all I have to do is define Walter. Walter is a 22-year-old loyal, thoughtful, and vigilant person. How about that? He wears his blonde hair in a bowl cut. He is clean shaven. He is professional in his manner and demeanor, right? Okay, so I've defined Walter as a 22-year-old loyal, thoughtful, and vigilant person. He wears his blonde hair in a bowl cut. He is clean-shaven. He is professional in his manner and demeanor, right? Finally, Walter is 5'4" and lean. There we have it. So I'm done, right? So technically, this is page 21. I've made my first character. What's going to take you the longest is going to be deciding what his 3 repute is, right? This would be shared before session starts. We actually account for the quality of our character. We actually share at the table what we've done. These can be combined as well. So you could wait and write your repute as you talk to the other players. So let's say Dell's got a player and it says he's done a thing. I might say yes, and my character helped Dell achieve that thing. That's how, so we earned that repute, right? So you can also do this as a round robin, kind of share how you all earned repute, right? But that's it. That is page 21. That is simple character, and we are ready to roll. You don't need to do anything else, ever. But let's say I'm going to go ahead and do simple plus profession. So then we move on to page 26, and there's a list of professions you can choose from, right? And understand that custom, simple plus custom, is basically making your own profession, right? So you're not limited to be any of these things, right? But let's go ahead and say I want to make a profession, right? So I'm going to go down here and put profession, and I'm going to pick scholar, and then I must pick a discipline. I think I spelled this stuff right. Forgive me. And I'm going to pick administrator because I've already defined in a way. That's what he's done through his repute. Administrator, right? So now I have defined it. Now, what does scholar mean? Well, it means I must have a prerequisite mind of 2, which means I'm going to have to adjust my scores. I cannot be a scholar and select a discipline if I do not move my mind up to 2. So I have no choice. I have to increase this, and I must reduce something else. And I don't want to reduce my prestige, as I want to be better than a peasant. But I don't have to be a spiritual person, right? Now, 0 doesn't mean you're not spiritual. It just means you're not. You don't vote. You might not go to church every Sunday, right? Or you might not kneel at your pagan. By the way, spiritual doesn't have to mean Christian. It can mean pagan as well, right? I might not kneel at the altar of my pagan goddess on a regular basis either. It doesn't mean I don't have in my hovel a shrine to the pagan goddess, right? Spirit 0 does not mean I'm a spiritual. It just means I'm not a dedicated spiritual person, maybe. Now, once I get to mind 2 or more, some things happen in our game. I end up with what's called tricks, disguise. This is not necessarily magic, tricks and disguise. So I basically can use tricks in negotiations, etc., etc. That's how mind is accounted for there. Or I can use disguise. I can pretend to be something I'm not, etc., etc. But we also have what's called words of power. This is where magic comes into play. So down here would go 2 if I'm using words of power, because I'm using my mind, right? So my mind gives me 2, and in combat I can actually use my mind as words of power, right? This would be magic. So tricks and disguise is more literal, right? Sleight of hand, maybe I won't say lying, but it could be, in tricking people with law, or, etc. And then, of course, disguise is fairly obvious, being capable of disguising myself or putting on airs, etc. Okay, so there we have it. Now, what happens with profession, I also get something as, and if you got to read here carefully on page 26, I also get an item of choice set to good, and a set of robes to good. So my robes become actually good as this profession. It assumes that I've been working and probably earned enough to get better robes, and I get to pick another item at good. I'm going to move my signet ring to good, and I'll leave my dagger at -1. I'm not planning on being in combat on purpose, or certainly not with a dagger if I can help it. So what is a signet ring? Well, the signet ring is something I can call into play when I'm negotiating or when I'm sealing. Let's say I'm sending a missive back from Howardtown to Lord Washburn, and I'm writing in that missive what's happening, and I want him to get the gist of my story, or the gist of my contract, or the gist of what's transpired between me and the Lord of Howardtown. I would seal that document with my signet ring, and then that would become a bonus to a check to set the quality of my missive. So let's say I'm brokering a contract between Washburn and Howardtown to exchange crops for iron, right? And I write up the contract. I can say I write the perfect contract, but no, we're going to have to make a roll, and I'm going to use my signet ring to seal the deal, and the signet ring can give me a bonus on the quality of that contract. If I make the roll, the contract is exactly good for both parties, and everybody's happy. If I fail that signet, if I fail that signet check, right, there could be a fallout later, right? It could show up later in that somebody feels they've gotten screwed on the deal or something, right? Again, our GM should be naive and shouldn't always decide the truth of the world, or should not know the truth of the world, right? So we may know immediately what the problem is with the contract, and it's given up by the presenter. In a failed roll, it would be a situational change or circumstantial change. It would be a complication to the scene, to the contract. If it's good, then it's what the player wants, right? And everybody's happy, right? So there we have it. That's it. So I have made a simple character that was ready to go, and I have made a simple character plus a profession. Now we'll go ahead and make a simple character using custom. So now I'm going to dump Scholar, And I'm going to get rid of this, and we're going to go make a simple character plus custom. Right? So I had one here for my simple character. I had one here, right? And I would not have words of power yet, right? And this would all be poor again, right? So here we go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and make a custom character, right? So now we're going to go custom. And let's go ahead and read what custom says here on page 27, I believe, right? So you don't pick professional plus custom, you basically make your own. So custom's pretty simple. Select either a distinction or a discipline, right? And below that you have 4 distinctions you can choose from, or you have 4 disciplines you can choose from. If you select a distinction, you must have a prestige of 2, which means I have to reduce one of these, right? If I make a character with a discipline, I must set my mind to 2 or greater, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and do because I've already written my repute, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the discipline, and that's going to be mind of 2, and again I must reduce my spirit, right? And what's going to happen up here is it's going to say discipline administration. Pardon my spelling, guys. It's not my chief power here, right? So now I'm not worried about saying profession. It's going to say discipline, administration. And with that mind of +2, we know I automatically get tricks and disguise and potentially words of power if I want them. Right, so not much has changed here. So I should have done something different. I should have made a different type of character, but that's fine, right? And my, again, so that means my words of power would be 2 for my mind, right? So I basically made the same thing as a scholar, but I don't define myself as a scholar, right? And what changes too is this down here is no longer preset. It says I get 1 excellent grade item. Uh-oh, now things get interesting. Is now I have a +1 signet ring. I get 1 good grade item. Well, I'm going to make my robes good. And I have 1 poor grade item. There we go, and that's it. And by the way, if I was a tradesman, I could then pick for another. I could actually add to this what it is I trade in. Gems, poor quality, right? If I wanted to, right? But I'm not. I'm an administrator. So there we have it. So now you see custom allows you to build the same thing, but also I get an excellent item instead of just a good item, right? So now my robes are good, which means this is no longer, right? Robes can be treated in armor. So that's what I mean by saying our game is not about combat, but your character is not reduced to the quality of his weapon. I will be a 0 combat rating thanks to my quality robes, right? Or again, I have a +2 when I use my mind in combat as magic, right? Okay, so there you have it. There is my scholar. He's technically, potentially a wizard, depending on how I use it. Tricks and disguise obviously comes with a mind of 2. And there you have it. Nothing else has changed. So I have now made a simple character that required nothing more than applying my attributes, right? My purse stays at 2 because of my prestige. My inventory stays at 4 because of my body. And again, my combat changed in all instances, right? All of this changed. So there you have it, folks. And again, and because my inventory is 4, I could carry one other thing like furs. Poor, right? And you can't have anything worse than poor, right? If furs are worse than poor, they don't exist. That means they're scraps. They would become remnants of furs. So if you have a thing, it's going to be poor, right? At least. Or you wouldn't have the thing. I wouldn't carry around worse than poor furs. I would throw them out. They're garbage. So that would be the 4th thing my character could account for. So when people say, holy cow, you're really screwed. Well, you're not, because you could acquire a backpack which allows you to carry 5 more items, right? Now I could add furs when I get them, right? Or if you go with a mule, I can have up to 12 items packed on the mule. So there are ways to, but I'm responsible for the mule. So the mule becomes one of my inventory items, as I am responsible for it. I have to command it, I have to ride it, I have to guide it, I have to feed it, I have to water it, I have to take care of it, right? It is a responsibility, but it would allow me then to list all kinds of items the mule carries for me and the group, right? So there you have it, right? So I could have, instead of a dagger, I could have said mule. Poor quality, but he carries 12 items. So as we pack up stuff for an adventure, or as we find things or need things or carrying things for Washburn, etc., they go on the mule. So the mule now becomes important, as we have to protect the mule, we have to keep the mule alive, etc., etc. With our game, there is much responsibility, right? As an administrator, Dredgewater Downs, who's already earned repute as a administrator and facilitator, right? Washburn basically means I work for Washburn, and I would anyway, because I'm not a lord. I am a +1 prestige. I'm a professional. Washburn can give me direct orders. You need to go to Howardtown. You need to take my niece to Howardtown and enroll her in the convent, right? You need to take my sick mother to the convent in Howardtown, and that's, the game might start with my character escorting Washburn's mother, right? And there you have it. That is character gen for Dark Age of Man. It is Dark Age of Man is a character-driven game. So who your character is and what your character's goals and desires and motivations are should yield most of the direction of your sessions, even with a group of 4 or 5 other players doing the same. As our presenter / GM should be naive and present the difficulties of the world as you make your way through it. So anyway, thank you for watching. This has been a Dark Age of Man tutorial, character generation.